So much to talk about tonight. One thing that a lot of people might be looking forward to is just how the politics of the National Assembly will play out. Who will be the Senate president? In fact, there is another Emilokon, if you understand that, you're not a Yoruba president, but that is being another political language that has been introduced into our politics recently. There is someone who says, I'm the next Senate president, it's my turn. And well, there are others who believe that their own region needs to be taken care of. In the House of Representatives, there are a lot of politics playing out. All of those are mentioned. How many are the lawmakers in the APC? How many are there in the PDP, in the Labour Party? What is the spread? What is the politics of the National Assembly? How do they elect those who will lead them in the National Assembly? We break all of this down for you. Don't forget that the APC says that it will do a zoning arrangement that its members will go into the National Assembly when they want to elect. But this is perhaps the first time since 2015 that APC has less of a number in terms of the voting numbers in each of the National Assembly to be able to determine who becomes the leader. Can the APC swing it? Can they determine? In fact, there are those who are saying again that you might even have a presiding officer from the minority political party. Oh, interesting scenario. Stay with me, everyone. Well, in another scenario playing out, there is another oil exploration and discovery in the northern region of the country. You remember what happened in the Gombe-Bauchi axis about 3 months ago? There is another one that just happened in Nasarawa State. Well, in all of that, can we get carried away by the oil exploration and not learn from the experiences of the past? What does this benefit the people of FCT and Nasarawa State? We dig into that also tonight, everyone. So much to talk about. But let's tell you that the Nigerian Labour Congress, the NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, have today suspended their planned strike and nationwide protest scheduled to commence tomorrow over the scarcity of Naira notes. The labour unions made this known at the end of their National Executive Council meeting today in Abuja. The labour unions are threatened to embark on a nationwide strike action and protest from tomorrow if issues like the cash crunch, fuel scarcity, and electricity tariff increase are not addressed by the government. But this is a position of the labor unions as being announced by the president of the NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaero.
With reports coming from all the states of the Federation and local governments on the level of compliance of banks. And we are happy to tell you that, yes, there is compliance by CBN. But the NLC, after its NEC meeting, doubted the sustainability of that compliance. And we don't want to be calling you back after 2 days for another action. And we felt that we have to monitor this compliance for the next 2 weeks to see whether it is sustainable. Because they have rushed to move money to commercial banks. And some of those commercial banks are getting empty again. Queues are returning in some of them. So it will be very naive for the Congress to hurriedly call off the action. Whereas we are not shutting down tomorrow. We want to loosen up for another 2 weeks with committees set up at the national level and in all the states of the Federation to coordinate the level of compliance.
That is the president of the NLC, Comrade Joe Ajaero, calling off the planned nationwide strike action by the union members and nationwide protest. But the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has appointed Mr. Umar Damagoma as the acting national chairman of the party. The National Working Committee of the PDP at an emergency meeting today acknowledged the order of the Benue State High Court with regards to the chairmanship position of the party says after careful consideration of the court order and in line with Section 45, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the PDP, as amended in 2017, the NWC resolved that the Deputy National Chairman, North Ambassador Umar Elia Damagum, assumes the national chairmanship of the party in an acting capacity with effect from today. Everyone stand by, because we need to bring you up to speed with what is happening in your political world in this country today. And when we come back, we'll talk about some of these very important topics that I've outlined for you tonight. First, let's check out your political roundup stories.
Thank you, Sheung. Good evening. I am Kayla Magwa, and these are your political roundup stories for today. Following threats by the NLC to embark on a nationwide picketing of all branches of the CBN, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Mr. Chris Ngige, says they've resolved the matter and remains optimistic that the strike action will be halted. Speaking at the 68th Ministerial Weekly Briefing, Senator Ngige says that a meeting between the two parties has been held where the union affirmed that there's been a relief on the cash crunch situation, particularly after the CBN weighed in over the weekend.
The NLC affirmed that there is an improvement in the cash flow. They praised the CBN at our last meeting yesterday and told them to improve.
Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Tonye Cole, says he will respect the views of the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if he asks him not to ask President Muhammadu Buhari to bring back APC's Board of Trustees. Senator Tonye Cole stated this at the State House, Abuja, after meeting with President Buhari over his ambition for the President of the Senate. According to him, both of them just laughed over the issue as the President maintained an ambiguous mood. He insists that he's confident about his ambition, even though he has not received assurances from anybody.
I'm a party man, like a party man, and I will respect his view. If he said I will not go, I will drop my ambitions. After all, I didn't make myself chief whip.
A former deputy speaker of the House of Representatives and governorship aspirant in Imo State on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, has withdrawn from the governorship race. The former governor had initially obtained a nomination form, but in a dramatic twist, Mr. Ihedioha today withdrew from the race, citing personal sacrifice to allow for a consensus candidate. Mr. Ihedioha was removed from office by the judgment of the Supreme Court, which confirmed Senator Hope Uzodimma as the governor of the Southeast State. Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State has formally withdrawn his petition challenging the election of Mr. Titus Zam of the All Progressives Congress, who defeated him in the last senatorial election. Mr. Otom says though there's evidence of malpractices, including non-transmission of results electronically during the conduct of the election, he's taken the decision for peace to reign. Meanwhile, he's assuring the people of Benue State that he'll continue to provide developmental projects across the state to the end of his tenure on May the 29th, 2023.
Let me add that the decision to withdraw my case from the courts is in the interest of peace and without prejudice to the suits filed by other candidates of our party, the PDP.
As Nigerians await the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, the National Chairman of the Labour Party, Mr. Julius Abure, is reaffirming the commitment of the party to lift Nigerians out of poverty through quality representation and legislation. Speaking in Abuja after meeting with members of the party that have been elected into the National Assembly, Mr. Abure says the party intends to make a difference in order to deepen the nation's democracy. He adds that the party remains committed to retrieving a stolen mandate, both at the national and state levels. The ruling All Progressives Congress and opposition People's Democratic Party in Plateau State are engaged in a war of words over the outcome of the just concluded governorship election in the state. At separate press conferences held in Jos, the state capital, both parties urged security agents to extend their investigations to various electoral offenders and accomplices that are responsible for the missing of electoral materials during the elections. Those are your political roundup stories for the day. It's back to you, Sheung.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. So, in June this year, the 10th National Assembly will be inaugurated and legislative process will begin. But before then, the members of the different chambers will have to elect their presiding officers. There's been some dramatic event that we're saying. You remember the days of Abinu Tambuwal and how he emerged. You remember what happened in and out of the National Assembly in 2015 when Bukola Saraki and Yakubu Dogara emerged. You also remember when Ahmed Lawan and Femi Gbajabiamila emerged in 2019. These are dramatic events that happened in the National Assembly. You probably also remember when some National Assembly members slept over at the car park of the National Assembly the night before the election. I mean, some of very interesting scenarios that always play out. So various templates of zoning key offices have since emerged. Some are advocating for zoning according to contributions at the last elections. Others have suggested the adoption of the arrangement that held sway between 1999 and 2007. Well, since the incoming president and vice president are from different zones opposite each other with those at the helm of affairs then, so let's take a look at how things are right now. So this is what we see and what we know. The president-elect, of course, of the Southwest from Lagos State. The vice president-elect from the Northeast, Borno State. Now, the question, that these are the four major presiding officer positions that will be up for election, and this is also determining how the other presiding officers' position will be determined. Now, on the left of your screen, of course, the red chambers in the National Assembly, the Senate President's seat and the Deputy Senate President, and of course, in the green chambers, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. This will be determined. So the APC said it will zone and make Nigerians know what it has decided. So that zoning arrangement meeting will precede the election proper. But let's look at it. Now, the region for the Senate President and all other positions in the National Assembly is yet unknown, is not known yet. Well, let's look at how the political parties are emerged in their numbers in the different chambers. Let's look at the Senate, for example. Out of the 109 seats, these are the breakdown for you on how the political parties stand as we know. And APC with 55 members in the Senate, PDP with 33 members, Labour Party with 8, NNPP 2, SDP 2, ABGA 1, YPP 1. We still have about 6 or about 7 seats on the timing yet. So we see how that plays out. So let's flip the page and go to the green chambers and see how things are standing right now in the green chambers. The APC, one thing that is constant is that the APC is maintaining as a majority political party. Out of the 360 seats, we know for sure 326 seats, as some other seats may be having supplementary elections or some kind of rerun in their state. So APC with 160 seats, PDP 105, Labour Party 34, NNPP 18, ABGA 4, SDP 2, ADC 2, YPP 1. If you look at all of this, there is another scenario that is playing out, and hugely too. 160 is a seat that the APC has in the House of Reps, for example. But if you look at the other seats as occupied by the other political parties, you discover that they have more numbers than the APC. That means that they might have a say. And those who are of the school of thought that even the minority can determine who the presiding officers, does the rule really specify whether or not the majority party will feed the presiding officer? They say that is just by convention. We see how that plays out. That's what we need to analyze for you tonight. But hold your breath, everyone. I'm coming into this analysis, and I have my guests already in the studio. But let's look at what happened today. There is yet another oil exploration, which was flagged off by President Muhammadu Buhari. He did that virtually, and the discovery and the drilling of oil in Nasarawa State, which he says that will lead to greater prosperity for Nigerians as well as enhance overall energy security for the country. In the virtual message that the president delivered to the official spotting of the Ebenyi, a well located in the middle Benue Trough in Obi local government area of Nasarawa State, the president says that the surrounding communities will particularly benefit from the value created by the exploration and eventual production activities. Look, everyone, this is interesting, right? Because Nasarawa State, in fact, there are some communities in Nasarawa State that you think they are in the FCT. There are a lot of people working in Abuja that they are living in Nasarawa State. What does this benefit the nation generally? Is this a blessing or a curse, considering the kind of things that we saw in the Niger Delta region of the country? But let's hear what the President Muhammad Buhari said at that event today.
I congratulate NNPC Limited, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, and other partners for their immense contribution towards making this day and this event possible. Furthermore, I am happy that the consequent positive outcomes of these drilling campaigns will lead to greater prosperity for our people and especially enhance overall energy security for our country. No doubt, the surrounding communities will particularly benefit from the value that will be created by the exploration and eventual production activities. I am also admonishing NNPC Limited and its partners to take due care of the environmental consequences of these oil exploration activities and to mitigate the negative effects.
President Muhammad Buhari there in earlier today, the virtual flag off of the oil well and the official drilling and exploration of oil in Nasarawa State. Let's get to understand what this means, because sometimes some of these things are not really pretty straightforward. The governor of Nasarawa State joins us live from Lafia, the capital of Nasarawa State. Engineer Abdullah Sule is live with us on the program tonight. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight. And congratulations on these. This, I guess, should be a blessing for the people of Nasarawa State. But let me begin. Frank conversation that we need to have about this, because a lot of the times when you see potential economic boom for the people, it turns out that it's not well utilized. But let me begin by asking, for many indigenes of the Niger Delta, the discovery and subsequent exploration of oil cannot be described as a blessing. The environment has been degraded and livelihoods lost. Is there any guarantee that your people of Nasarawa State will not be exposed to a similar predicament?
Well, thank you very much, Sheun. I thank you for having me on this program again today. As you have seen, has been a very, very busy day for us. But first and foremost, before I even go into answering your questions, let us thank the Almighty God for giving us this opportunity to witness a day like this in Nasarawa State. Secondly, let me thank Mr. President and the management of the NNPC for their resilience, their commitment in ensuring that this activity actually comes to a reality today. Now, going back to your question, if I can just answer it, you have to understand that we are doing it from the point of knowledge now, not guessing. What has happened in the Niger Delta started from Olebiri, in the 60s. So at the time, the technology we have today was not there. At the time that we are talking about, the type of commitment we have was not there. The kind of population of the people around was not there. And most of the activities were taking place in what you call swamp areas. Now, in Nasarawa State, we don't have these swamp areas. That is number one. Number two, the NNPC has come out with a new method of approaching this oil production. Where this is happening, there is no water close to it. It is purely an onshore operation. Secondly, it is going to be what we call an integrated field development, which means right there where this formation at the hydrocarbons is found, the drilling activity will take place, the refining activity will take place, the production of fertilizer will take place, the power production will take place, so it is all in one. Therefore, it is just surrounding that area. There will not be pipelines going into various communities that are going to cause environmental concerns to the people. That is one. Two, in the Niger Delta, majority of the gas that was being produced in the past was being flared until the federal government came with a policy that said gas flaring, there was penalty for it. And that's why you now have the LNG, the LPG, and all what have you. So it's the same system today we have. Where this oil will be produced, all the gas production will take place. But in reality, from the gas will produce, you have to understand, some of us are actually coming from the oil industry also. So we are talking about it from the point of knowledge of what is happening in the industry today. So it is no longer going to be as usual. However, we can say all the nice things at the end of the day, if they are not being purely followed, they can still cause a lot of environmental degradation. So that is the reason why we are taking every one of those steps to ensure. And I think you heard from what Mr. President also said, his warning that we should ensure that this production from the Ebenyi A does not affect the environment negatively. So I think in a nutshell, maybe that's what the way I can answer it. Otherwise, if I talk about oil, I can take another 30 minutes just explaining the operation there.
So it then means one thing, and perhaps let's just look at, because I have a long list of questions for you, and I'd like us to really tackle them as brief and as fast as we can. So first and foremost, what is the volume of exploration that we're looking at? In layman's terms, how large or how small is it compared to some other parts of the country?
Okay, I was standing right next to, the oil and gas assets are usually not disclosed. They try as much as possible, to keep it to their chest. But let me answer it to you this way. By the time we went to Kolmani in Gombe, the NNPC disclosed that there is about 1 billion barrels of oil at the Kolmani. From what we have seen, since the year 2010, when the hydrocarbons participation formation is known somewhere in Kiana in Nasarawa State, it was an excellent formation. Then the displacement actually moved to a place called Obi, where you said it's a different local government altogether, but next to it, where the Ebenyi A is actually being drilled. So from these two fields and what we had, these two fields together are better than Kolmani in volume. That's the best I can answer to you without actually working against their confidentiality, because I can't disclose the quantity of hydrocarbons that is found there. Remember, this is our first well. But from the seismic acquisition that has been processed and actually interpreted so far, from what we have seen, the quantity that we found in Nasarawa State today is actually higher than what we have in Kolmani.
So it's right to say that Nasarawa State is now an oil-producing state. Is that right?
It's already declared today, if you listen to the statement by the representative of the Minister of State of Petroleum. He mentioned that Nasarawa State can now actually participate in some of the activities of the PTDF and the Nigerian Content Development Association. Remember, this oil is not for Nasarawa State. I keep correcting some of my friends who keep mentioning about Nasarawa State. This oil belongs to Nigeria. So Nasarawa State is just where the oil is found, but this oil belongs to Nigeria, and whatever is there belongs to the Federation account. So we are just the custodians of the assets, and that's the way it is everywhere.
So again, when would we see a possibility of an exact product coming out of Nasarawa State in terms of the actual production?
Actual production could happen in not a distant time, because the way it goes is today, this well we are drilling today, that commenced drilling today, where you saw the rig, is actually called an exploration well. After the exploration well, the process is for an appraisal well to be drilled, where the hydrocarbons that is found will actually go through that process. After that, they will now come up with what we call development program. In the development program, they will indicate how many wells will be drilled, because it may not be just one well where the production from that same formation will actually be coming. So it may come from about 3, 4, 5, 6 wells. that will be there. So based on that, you can say in a nutshell, if everything is put together, and from my own experience of what I have seen in the US similar to this, you can say that in the next 2 years, then we can begin to think about the oil. But remember, this is an integrated field development, which means there is going to be a refinery on the side. So the production of the oil is not the end of the story. The kind of refinery that will be built there is the next thing. Is it going to be skid-mounted refinery? Is it going to be a movable refinery? So we have to also sit down and go through that and agree together. Those are the kinds of things that will happen. So oil itself, it won't take you much time. The oil will be dry. You can see it. The next is going to be, and by the way, the oil, for your information, most likely from what we are seeing, is going to be another oil similar to Niger Delta, which means sweet crude. That's what we are thinking.
That sounds good. So for the people of Nasarawa State, they might also be benefiting from the 13% derivation, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the law, Sheun. So, by that time, you can also transfer to Nasarawa State and begin to benefit from the 13%.
That's going to be interesting. But, I mean, if you ask me, I'm not probably very excited considering when we talk about natural resources and how rich some nations of the world are in terms of natural resources. For example, you find out that the Democratic Republic of Congo is probably one of the wealthiest countries of the world in terms of natural resources. For every mobile phones that you find, they have you have coltan or cobalt that is contained in it, and is largely found. In fact, he said a larger percentage of that material found in every mobile phone is that product, the raw material, is found in that country. But that country is one of the poorest in the world. Nasarawa State has enormous marble under the ground also. So in the real sense of it, your people might be stepping on their feet, enormous natural resources. But the question is, what does this amount to on the food on their table and the monies in their pocket? That is the bottom line. That is when anybody should be happy. So what is your plan as a leader of the state, as a governor of the state? What does this transmit to in the livelihoods of your people?
Well, it transmits to a lot, Sheun, and personally, I feel delighted because of the little experience I have around the world on this. I'm very familiar with what happened in Angola. I'm very familiar also with what happened in the Congo because I work in an oil and gas industry in the US that gave me the opportunity to see this. I'm very familiar with the Poltava region in Ukraine, what has happened there and what is happening there. So it is the issue to take in from, we can't reinvent the wheel. We just have to take it from one point to another and see exactly how this will work. Now, coming back to your question, how does this benefit the people of Nasarawa State? Right now, as I'm talking to you, when we went to the site today, my excitement was to see that on top of that rig is actually youth from Nasarawa State that had been employed already by the company that are working. So they are not just gaining employment, they are gaining the experience. These are people who have never seen an oil and gas operation before. Today they are working on a rig. So they are getting them trained, they are getting experience, and we are getting the advantage that I'm saying about the economic empowerment that is there. Today there are roads that have already been on site, being constructed. That is actually bringing development to the area. We are beginning to see more people who are coming to the site. More people means more benefits actually for the opportunities that we are seeing in the area. Today, so these are all the line of things that will happen. Everything in life has its own up and down. So of course, oil and gas operation has its own disadvantages, like you mentioned. But for us, we try as much as possible to see how we can utilize them. You mentioned about Nasarawa State being a state where a lot of minerals were found. Before we came, we had a lot of barite in Nasarawa State. We have a lot of tantalite in Nasarawa State. We have even the cobalt that you mentioned in Nasarawa State. And then I came and met a situation where our marble was being taken from the quarry raw out of Nasarawa State to be processed. Today, we are processing all the marble in Nasarawa State. And you can tell, actually, if you go to the airport in Abuja and the airport in Lagos, the marble that you work on at the new terminals, those marbles are actually from Nasarawa State. So that is the kind of thing that we are beginning to see.
So, Governor Sule,
that is happening.
Yeah. So yes. Apologies. So I'm going to ask you, because I'm not from Nasarawa State, but tonight as a journalist, I'm asking the question for the benefit of the people of your state and generally in Nigeria, those who believe that if you have natural resources, and even if you cannot directly benefit 100% from what the products that are gotten out of it, you must at least have, in terms of jobs creation, because I was going to ask you for the extent to which the citizens of Nasarawa State will be involved in the oil and gas ecosystem. But is there a policy that you are going into to ensure, because if you have all of this chain in Nasarawa State, we shouldn't find any Nasarawa citizen or resident being jobless. There will be thousands of jobs that will be provided. Are you thinking about policy? If you are, what exactly are those?
Well, just because you have an oil discovery doesn't mean everybody in the state will be employed. It doesn't work that way. Not even in Saudi Arabia, where they are onshore operations, they are producing about 7 million barrels per day. Not everybody is employed, and they don't have 10% of the population of Nigeria. So now the issue that I'm telling you about is not necessarily just because of employment. There is a value chain that is going to come along. There is one employee that will be there, and then that employee will also attract so many other employment, and so whatever derivation we are going to get, it will be for the benefit of Nasarawa State. It will go back and invest into our youth, into our women, into the state. That is for sure. That one I will tell you clearly. This is what is going to happen. And we have been doing that with the little resources that we are getting at the moment. We can only do it better when we have more resources. And we have been participating in so many PPP arrangements. Just 3 days ago or 4 days ago, I went and signed an agreement with the new UK NIAD. It's a PPP arrangement where they will come in and invest in certain areas 85%, and Nasarawa State will invest 15%. You see, if we have the resources, I will increase our equity participation from 15 to say we are going to 50. And those are the kind of benefits I think that will come. So I think one is for us to...
So because the question again will be, you said that you got into Nasarawa State meeting the IGR at about 7 billion or so, and you've increased it to over 20 billion. So in terms of numbers, how much of increase can you, or revenue can you generate, and what numbers are you working with?
No, I think for now, if you do, it will be jumping the gun. Number one, the first question you will ask is that what is going to be the production, how many barrels per day? Is it going to be 100,000 barrels per day? Is it going to be 50,000 barrels per day? Then we can do our calculation from there. That is one. Two, 13% derivation is a factor of the price of oil. Are we selling it at $100 per barrel? Is it 160? Is it 90? Or is it the 25, 27 that President Muhammad Buhari made in the year 2014, 2015? So these are the kinds of things. So if you go and start budgeting for something that you don't even have all the indices yet, I think it's a mistake.
All right.
And I don't think we will make that kind of mistake.
Quickly, Mr. Governor, I have just a lot of questions, but just quickly, let's tackle them. In many oil-producing states, we have seen very high levels of income inequality. A few people become extremely rich, while majority are very poor. The benefits are being very uneven in most of these communities. How will you ensure an equitable distribution of the benefits of being an oil-producing state?
One of the things, by the grace of God, that we are trying to do here in Nasarawa State, we are not very rich, therefore big money is not going to scare us for people to start going in that direction. First thing that I said we are going to do from next week, we are going to set up a committee of people from Nasarawa State who are going to be the ones, who will constitute the force that will implement all our plans as far as the oil and gas is concerned. Then we will engage a consultant who is very familiar with this. So that is on one side. Secondly, we'll ask the investors of this field. Let me say ask, because we are not forcing anybody. We'll ask them to make sure they engage the Nasarawa State. That's why I mentioned earlier to you that Nasarawa State can now, from what we are told, participate in what is happening at the Nigerian content development operation. So Nasarawa State can participate in some of these small oil services that are there. Is it drilling fluid? Is it production chemicals? Is it, so Nasarawa State will be provided with the knowledge to be able to do that. Those are the kinds of things that I know the people of Nasarawa State will benefit.
I wish the people of Nasarawa State the very best, because also I'll be interested in knowing the incentivization to promote economic inclusion in local economy, how this will benefit. But I guess you've mentioned a few of that. But that's another thing to chew on, Governor Sule. But we are totally out of time, and I have just two political questions for you, because on this program yesterday we had a PDP governorship candidate. And earlier in the morning today, on our morning show, we had one of the PDP chieftains, a former Minister of Information. But there are a few things that I'd like you to clarify and tell Nigerians why this is happening. First is the fact that it does look that there are a lot of anger towards your victory and your emergence as your re-election as governor of Nasarawa State. There are half-naked women that have gone to the streets of Nasarawa State unhappy and protesting your victory. These pictures have gone far and wide, and your opponents are saying these stamp the fact that your election was fraudulent. That is how your opponents describe it, and they have alleged that you rigged your way back into power.
Well, Sheun, you are dealing with people that have never, ever lost election. As far as they are concerned, every time they lose is because of region. In Nasarawa State, at the last election we had for the governorship, in fact, let us start with the presidential election, where I was the state coordinator of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We lost the election to even a party that we didn't anticipate, to Labour Party. Nobody rigged that. We allowed that to happen. Because with the Beavers, I didn't even know how to rig. That is number one. Two, in the governorship election, the same governorship election, the PDP won 6 out of our 130 local government councils. They won 6. We won 7. As far as they are concerned, all the 6 they won were clean. All the 7 we won were rigged. People cannot live like that. Now, it didn't happen just at this last election. I didn't watch the program last night because we were preparing for the oil operation today with the management of NMPC in my house. So I didn't watch the last night program, but I saw part of today's program by the former minister you mentioned. Now, this is the former minister who, as far as he's concerned, he lost election in 2007. It's like Nasarawa State was going to come to an end. They were the people that put bonfires on the way, shut down the roads, beating anybody who was crossing all over Nasarawa that time. They lost election 2011. It was similar. In 2015, he said he was rigged. In 2019, he was rigged. So are you surprised that the same people are now saying that in 2023 they are rigged? And in 2027, when they are defeated again, they will be rigged. So as far as they are concerned, every time they lose election, they have been rigged. But all the ones they won in the 13 if we have won all the 13 local government areas, then you can say, okay, something is wrong. But these are people who have won 6.
But Governor, isn't something wrong when you find elderly women of Nasarawa going naked on the streets of the state? Isn't that an extreme way of expressing their displeasure at your victory?
And that is very unfortunate. That is sad. That is not in line with our culture of Nasarawa State. And from what we saw, most of those women, we have never even seen them. Most of those women. So the people who are sending them to protest, if it is true that this is in protest of our win, this will be happening simultaneously in all our 30 local government areas. Not some 100 women will go naked in one local government. Tomorrow you will move them to another local government. Next tomorrow you will move them to another local government. If we had stopped them, they will say freedom of speech. We have stopped them. If we had allowed them, look at the way they were going. Is it only these 100 women that voted for PDP that are worried? How about all the majority of the people that
Well, I thought that was
the people in Latvia?
Because the PDP candidate said yesterday, I don't know how true that is. I tried to find out whether or not. He said you lost your polling unit, you lost your ward, and that you are very unpopular on the ground, but I'm not certain about the figures.
This is a guy I beat in the year 2019. In the year 2019, I got 338,000 votes. He got 182,000. So I beat him in 2019. He's beaten again now in this. So was I unpopular in 2019
also? Did you lose your polling unit and your ward, Governor? Did you lose your polling unit?
There is no way I will. This is very unfortunate that somebody who wants to be a governor doesn't even know what is happening in the state. In fact, in my own polling unit, he got 4 votes. So how am I losing the vote? These are public information. In my own polling unit, I was told that he said, you know, big contradiction, that he said when I was losing my polling unit, that we brought some talks, they destroyed the ballot papers. Then he said he defeated me in the polling unit. At my polling unit, there was no problem at my polling unit. It was counted.
All right, Governor, we need to go now. We're totally out of time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there is also what is happening, and it's been described as anti-democratic and lawless. That under your watch, peaceful protesters have been asked to stay off the street to protest. And this is what is being described as the fundamental right of the citizen, of any citizen in this country. How would the police ban protesters who are legitimately going about protesting their rights on what they believe that it is on the election outcome, it is not real? How do you describe it for those human rights activists who say this is undemocratic?
Sherwin, this is a question for the police. But let me tell you, as far as we are concerned, these people have gone like this for one week. Okay? Moving from one village, they are being paid some little tokens. They just brought some people, vulnerable old women from the villages, paying them 1,500, 2,000 naira a day to be carrying out this shame all over the place. They are not bringing their own wives. They are not bringing their own sisters. They are not bringing, we have 147 wards in Nasarawa State. Let them bring all the wards, the women leaders from every ward to come.
But Governor, I'm asking you because you are the chief security officer of the land, and if people's rights are being trampled, because there are those who have gone to court to say that no citizen can be stopped from a peaceful protest. But the question is, under your watch, how would protesters not be allowed to protest?
The protesters have been protesting under my watch.
But there has been a ban.
Have you seen me even getting close to them?
But there has been a ban on the protest.
Well, that's for the police. Well, then you talk to the police.
But you are the chief security officer of the state.
Why are they banning?
But you are the chief security officer of the state.
I don't have police. Yes, but the police are not under me. The police are, you may ask the Inspector General of Police for doing that. The police are not under me. The police have the right to cause a security risk. You see, what has happened is that the police have been working every day trying to stop the other protesters, you know, who are going to fight these women, to say that this is not in line with our culture, this is not in line with our religion. So based on that, if police decide to do that, you can ask the CP of police or the IG of police.
Governor Abdullah
It's not the Nasarawa state government that stopped them.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Governor Abdullah Sule, for your time tonight. I appreciate your interventions.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's unfortunate. I really didn't want to join issues with these guys because I don't take them so serious. But I came to discuss oil. But unfortunately, you brought that up. But
the controversy. And I wanted you to say it by yourself that you did not lose your word, because it's between you and your opponent, your politicians. No one can get in between you guys. And so we'll let you allow you to clarify your things yourself. Thank you so much indeed for it.
Let him come to my ward 20 times. 20 times he will be defeated in my ward.
Thank you so much.
20 times he will be defeated in my ward. Yes, sir.
We take some messages, everyone. We take a break, and when we come back, we continue with our conversation on the National Assembly politics. Interesting conversation that would be. Through me, everyone. We'll be right back.
The Subnational Audit Efficacy Index assesses the level of transparency and accountability in the management of public funds and implementation of public policies in all 36 states of Nigeria. The SA Index 2022 will be presented on Wednesday, 29th March 2023 at the Abuja Continental Hotel by 10 a.m. Attendance is strictly by invitation, powered by Paradigm Leadership Support Initiative, PLSI, with support from the MacArthur Foundation.
Experience the opulence and security of Swiss Traders with over 30 years experience, exclusive with a touch of history and craftsmanship. Swiss Traders are made from the finest ancient aga and ivory wood, a range of exclusive armored doors, elegant interior doors, carefully crafted by world-renowned architects and engineers. At Swiss Trade, a door is much more, plus premium quality onyx stones and luxury interiors. Visit Swiss Trade today or call now. Swiss Trade, blend of beauty and security.
See as it be now, they call me but no be me show. That's how some business owners will have a different name on their business account from the actual business name. Listen, don't let your customers be suspicious of your business. Sign up a business account with Money Points and get an account in your business name in minutes.
Whatever it takes to make sure you have a business account opened in your business name, we'll do it as your sure banker. Open a bank account in your business name with Money Point.
So let's get back to the conversation I told you earlier about. So that we know that the president-elect is from the southwest Lagos, and the vice president-elect is from the northeastern region, Borno State, Kashim Shettima. So where will the Senate president come from? What zoning arrangement? Because that is the next one in terms of the balancing of power. The Speaker of the House of Reps, where will it come from? There are those who believe that the other regions have to have all of these, but with what we're seeing on the ground, it looks so much that a lot of politicking will be happening. But in the Senate, these are the numbers that we know as of now. Out of the 109 seats, this is what we know, the political parties and the seats that have been taken so far. 102, the rest have not been confirmed. And in the House of Reps, out of the 360 seats, these are the numbers of seats and the political parties that have been able to hold on to them, like as we know for now. Now, let's look at the faces or the names of those whose names have been thrown up in this ambition. In the in the Senate, for example, we are hearing Ojo Zokali, he said it. He said that it is his turn. Senator Jibrin Baraudi, perhaps the only senator from Kano State, in the 10th National Assembly. Senator Sani Musa, 313 from Niger State. Senator Goswi Akpabio, a former governor from Akwa Ibom State in the South region. Senator Dave Umahi from Ebonyi State, Southeast Nigeria. Senator Osita Uzunaso, returning a ranking. He will be a ranking senator if he returns now from Imo State. Senator Ahmed Lawan, his name was the latest to be thrown. He's a sitting Senate president. Could it be that he wants again to run for Senate president? Let's look at what is happening in the House of Reps. Benjamin Kalu, his name has been thrown up to wanting to be the speaker. He's from Imo State, from Abia State, and he's the spokesperson of the House of Reps. Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, Honorable Aliyu Batara, and a 42-year-old Yusuf Gagdi. These are the names that have been thrown up. Let's get to talk about all of these. I have joining me tonight a professor of from the University of Ibadan, expert in strategic communication and development, Professor Kuta Yaya. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure to join you, Sean.
And I have a ranking honorable member, Akin Alabi. Thank you so much. He's a member of the APC from Oyo State. Thank you so much indeed.
My pleasure.
What is going on? First, let me begin with you. Because you are in the National Assembly, what do you think your party might be thinking about in terms of zoning? You had your fingers burnt as a political party in 2015 at that meeting, and which things really boomerang, and it didn't go the way of the party. It was the candidates that the party did not want, I mean, in quote, that emerged as the candidate. So what is going on right now?
Well, right now, we all agree we must go into the leadership election as a united front. So right now, we're all waiting for the guidance, direction of the leadership of the majority party, our party, the All Progressives Congress. Because you've said it, if we are not united, things have happened in the past. We don't want it to be a free-for-all fight. We don't want it to be what the Australians call a Donnybrook, just a melee. It's going to be a mess. So we have to go into the House, into the election on that day in June as a united front. Now, you've talked about where the president comes from, the Southwest. Definitely, so no one will expect the Senate president to come from the Southwest. No one will expect the speaker to come from the Southwest. Those of us that, it's not that we don't have credible people from the Southwest. We've got quality people. We've got quality people in the Senate that ranking members from the Southwest as well. So definitely we're not going to be going to that road. Now, for some people,
sorry, apology. Yeah. So what you're saying is that Southwest and Northeast, we should rule out Senate presidency and the speaker.
Well, I'll start with the Southwest because that's the president. That's the most important. That's the biggest. But
you also have the Northeast also.
Yes, so for balance, for spread, it will be important for other zones to have a taste of leadership. And for those that will say, you should be talking about competence and not just zoning. The truth of the matter is that there are competent people in every sector, every spread across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. So we need balance, so leadership must go to the other parts of the country.
One thing, Prof, that is also in the play, I mean, I don't know if you agree with what the Honorable said about how things should go.
Well, let me appreciate the Honorable for that consideration. But if you look at the entire political space, you will agree with me that the National Assembly, one arm of government that is very critical for our democracy. Because if you look at the executive, outside the president and the vice president that are elected by the majority of the citizens, the rest are appointed based on the constitutional power granted to Mr. President to nominate people to serve across the 36 states and the FCT. But the National Assembly, they all have to go through the rigors of election process, from primaries through the final election to the National Assembly. So it's not a tea party. It's a serious business. So for that level, that means the entire citizenry that participated in the election were part of their election into the National Assembly. So they will be representing a whole lot of people. So it's a serious business. So every zone, every sector is looking up to somebody that will represent their interests, especially at the leadership level.
So zoning matters.
Very critical.
Very important.
So talking about zoning is also the balance of religion. I mean, interest and religion also. Because this I've heard from members of the APC that, look, since your party, the APC, had gone in the way of a Muslim ticket, then it puts your party in a very difficult situation to consider leadership of the National Assembly from the same religion. Is that a consideration also?
Because it's definitely going to be a consideration. We had it for the presidential election, Muslim ticket. But I'm not sure we want to stretch it to have the number 3 man as a Muslim as well. And that will put like a zone like the Northwest that did brilliantly for our party during the elections. I think we got the highest number of votes, the APC, from the Northwest. Even though I think...
Not Central. If you look at the differentials. The highest
difference, I think, I'm talking about the votes, the numbers themselves, not the differentials. Yeah. Right. So the numbers, they gave us the highest number of votes. So they deserve something in this government. So if the president is coming from the Southwest and the vice is coming from the Northeast, then the Northwest will say we want the number 3 slot. Then you have to ask yourself, Muslim. We understand that when we're selecting the running mate when the president-elect was selecting his running mate, there were considerations like he's a Muslim Islam is the minority in the South. Then if he chooses a Christian running mate, that's minority in the North. So it might be a bit not a strong ticket. So we went for Muslim. So are we going to go for Muslim this time? And that might rule out the top guys from the Northwest, because they're Muslims in the Northwest, those that have already signified that list. I'm talking about the likes of Labaran Maku, Senator Jibrin Barau, the current appropriation chairman, and all quality people, no doubt about that. But if we're going to spread it, it has to go to the South, Christian South, and not Southwest, as I said. So it's got to be Southeast or South. So
Southeast or South. And if you look at, please, could you bring back the list that we had on the for those who are the ambition? So. If you're saying that a difficult one for your party in terms of religion, which could rule people out, so we have Devu Mahi, Goswe Akpabio, Oju Zokalu, Osita Zuna. So invariably, on the basis of religion, the likes of Jibrin Barau, Sani Musa, and Ahmed Lawan, there might be a question mark. Do you agree, Prof?
Well, when you look at the sensibility of the entire political space and the need for inclusiveness, then you begin to wonder why we should not be sensitive to other interests, especially given the fact that a lot of concerns were raised during the elections, pre-elections, after the Muslim ticket emerged. And that led to some reactions and counter-actions by other actors in the electoral space. So if we have to consider inclusiveness, we should begin to look at that considerably. But these people, they also have their own right to contest, because they are elected to represent their people, and by virtue of the Constitution and the rules, I don't think there is any provision that will stop them from contesting. That is one. But if you want to be considerate, based on the need for inclusiveness, you might begin to consider that.
So for the Senate presidency, and I've heard some argument also in the line that Northwest, although your party lost in Kano, which would have been one that Kano would have, in fact, the likes of Adodogua has been nursing the idea of being a speaker before now, but his election is still hanging in the balance. But North Central have also pitched a very strong argument that they've always been neglected in the scheme of things. The last time you had an opportunity in the North Central was when Bukola Saraki became Senate President. And so when those who are pushing for someone like Sani Musa in the North Central region of the country, how strong is that push and that pitch?
Well, Senator Sani Musa, coincidentally, is from my state, and I've known him very well for a very long time. And if you look at his antecedents, you will know that he's one of those Nigerians that you can look up to for serious leadership challenge like that, because number one, he's a very brilliant and educated individual. You can attest to that. And in his political involvement, he is not somebody who is a very ambitious person, but people are the one gravitating towards him. And I'm aware that in the current dispensation, his colleagues, both from his party, APC, and other parties are rooting for him to become Senate President, because in the position he had now...
is from your state.
He's from my state. We have worked together before, and that we have even attended some courses in the U.S., in Pittsburgh, in Harvard together, so I can attest to his, very amiable personality.
But the question is, politically speaking, does he have a chance? Will North Central be giving a Bible? He's the only one from the North Central on the bill at the moment.
Unfortunately, the North Central has always been a victim of political calculation in Nigeria. When the big boys, in quotes, think that they have some superior argument, they always look at North Central as a tool to be used. And after that election, they abandoned. I think we can recall in the near past that North Central had always done very well in terms of contribution to the electoral process. Even in the recent past, in the entire contribution, you can say that North Central contributed more. But in the palace, where you look at the common people, they will say the minority or Hausa Bokwe, or just the Banza Bokwe, those are the kind of slangs that they're derogatory, but I'm not trying to impugn it on them. But I think this is a chance for the North Central.
So, but again, you look at the Southeast and their plight in that region, and those who believe that from the days of the likes of Senator Ken Namani, I'm not sure if that's not the last time we saw a Southeastern and a Senate President of Igbo extraction. Pius Ayim also was a Senate President, and then afterwards we had former Senate President David Mark, and then Bukola Saraki and Ahmed Lawan now. But you look at the opportunity of servicing the interest of the Southeast, and that's where the likes of Osita Ozonaso, Dave Umahi, and Orji Uzakalu comes to play. Orji Uzakalu, for example, had gone to meet the president. He said, "Look, Emiloko." And if you look at the run of play within it's just first among equals. That is how that election is usually very described. So it comes down to who has the political weight to pull it around the room, isn't it?
Well, it's also very important for you to look at some variables. What is the antecedents of individuals? And sentiments apart, politics is a game of number. And when sentiments begin to play, you discover you lose the mark. But I know for sure people like Sani Musa have read some of his press statements. He has always said that there's no desperation, anything that will bring about the unity of this country. If inclusiveness will be the answer, he will be willing to support anybody from the South who is a Christian, and he will, not mind to go for the Deputy Senate President. And I think that is a very good commendation to consider that. But I also look at the references you have made in the past when the Southeast were majorly in the major party like the PDP. During the PDP era, Southeast was very prominent, and so. But now in this circumstance, you can see that they have assumed minority role in the central government. So
they didn't. Your party didn't win at all in any of the 5 states
at all.
In the South, not even in the South. Your party did not win any of the states. But let's take a break, Prof. and Honorable. We'll take a break. That when we come back, we'll look also what is going to happen in the House of Representatives. Who could be the Speaker? The choice of the APC, because at the end of the day, the party may come down to one thing, having to get one candidate each for this position into the arena in June. And who could this be? In all of the names that you have seen on your screen, we continue the analysis when we return from the break, everyone. Join us again.
Experience the opulence and security of Swiss Trade Doors. With over 30 years experience, exclusive with a touch of history and craftsmanship, Swiss Trade Doors are made from the finest ancient aga and ivory wood. A range of exclusive armored doors, elegant interior doors, carefully crafted by world-renowned architects and engineers. At Swiss Trade, a door is much more, plus premium quality onyx stones and luxury interiors. Visit Swiss Trade today or call now. Swiss Trade, blend of beauty and security.
Which kind wire you gonna need to light up your life? Oh, man, the quality wire. Which kind cable you gonna need to light up your house? Oh, man, the quality cable. Coleman quality. Coleman wire. Coleman durable. Coleman cable. Coleman tank. Coleman cable for any kind of project. Coleman. Now come and be the bar. Come and see. Now come and be the bar. Won't light up your life. Now come and be the bar. Come and see. Now come and be the C-O-L-E-M-A-A. Quality, quality. Durable, oh yeah. Now come and be the barber.
Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. In fact, I'm understanding now that Honorable Sada Soli from Katsina, a three-time member of the House of Representatives, is also interested in being Speaker. I understand that he's written to almost all the members of the House in showing his intention. He's getting rather interested by the day, Honorable. That of the House of Representatives might see more intrigues, considering those who are now even saying that the opposition are wanting to snatch that seat.
Well, it's he said it earlier on. It's everybody's right. In the House, you've got to have legislative experience, meaning you've got to be a ranking member.
Is that the rule?
Yeah, you have to have legislative experience, but it could mean state legislative. Mm-hmm. It could mean you've been a member for maybe 6 months and maybe something happened, they need to change the speaker, but it's stated in our procedures in the House that you've got to have legislative experience.
But it doesn't state whether you must be in the majority party or minority party.
So that's just a
tradition.
But
it's conventional.
It's conventional. But it can happen if they bring themselves together. If you calculate the numbers of NNPP, Labour Party,
they have more numbers.
And the PDP.
They can determine it.
They can determine it.
Yeah.
But like I said, if we've got a united front, I can tell you for free that a couple of those parties too are with us, right? So if they're with us, then the opposition won't be able to form the majority.
So the voting formula is what? Is it highest number of votes or two-thirds?
It is highest number, but it is 180 plus 1.
That you need to have before you can become
So if you have three contestants and one gets 150 and the other gets 100 and the other gets whatever, there's going to be a rerun. The last person will drop out. You must have 180 plus 1, right? But after the rerun, then the majority will take it home.
So, I mean, what is the... give us an idea of the run of play right now. The
run of play is that we were talking about the Senate earlier, right? And we said that because of the Muslim. Northwest is very key in the scheme of things, right? So if the party is not going to zone the Senate presidency to the Northwest, and it's probably zoned to the South, the Southern Christian, then the Northwest will ask, what's in it for us? So then all eyes will be on the speakership.
So, I mean, there is a school of thought that is thinking that let's South or the Southeast have it. And a Christian.
For the Senate presidency, yeah. But for speakership, the Northwest is going to ask you, wasn't it for us? And there's a strong possibility that it can go to the Northwest. But it's not up to me. It's up to the leaders of our party. Then we've got quality candidates from the Northwest. Mm-hmm. We've got Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, right? A 3-term member, PhD holder, right? Current House Committee Chairman on Land Transport. We've got, you just mentioned Honorable Sada Sole. You mentioned him. We've got Honorable, I think, Jaja too.
I've heard about Idris Wassa too.
Yeah, from North Central. North Central. Yeah. As the Deputy Speaker of the House, it's very natural to want to gun for the #1 job. That's very normal. So
a chance of forced refusal, maybe.
Sorry?
A chance of forced refusal, maybe.
Everything still boils down to zoning. So if we say Northwest, then the issue of forced refusal is not going to come.
Experience on one hand is the leadership capacity, because a house is has a possibility of more polarity because of the numbers and even, in fact, of the experience and the ages of the members. So there is a need for a leader that can unite the House, because the Senate, they see themselves as more senior members of the National Assembly, and they behave like that in some ways. I mean, no intention to, but that is what we're seeing over the time that has played out. But, Prof, give us an understanding of, we have a president-elect as a former senator.
Yes.
A vice president-elect as sitting senator. So they are equally experienced people.
First lady.
Even the first lady elect she's a sitting senator. So in that sense, the National Assembly politics, I know if President Buhari has been described as someone who was not interested in the National Assembly politics, I'm not sure the Tinubu presidency will stay aloof. He will be interested because he knows just how powerful the National Assembly is. What do you see happening? How much involvement do you see Tinubu and Shettima being in this politics?
Well, given my understanding of the two leaders, I know they are experienced people, very dogged, charismatic, and indeed strategic in every sense of the word. So I will say that given the significance of the National Assembly in recent time as a game changer in terms of our political system, based on what we experienced with the Electoral Act 2022, it brought a lot of sanity, even though it affected some members. Many people did not come back from the two chambers, so you can imagine that they were on patriotic front. So I'll be very confident that these two leaders will be very much interested, and they will be interested in bringing a kind of inclusiveness or balancing of interests, because the president-elect has said it clear that they will go for healing, and the healing process has started with engagement, with consultations, and this will assuage some other interests that are really aggrieved based on decisions or political exigencies that have happened over time. So I have no doubt in my mind that they will be interested, because they know the National Assembly, being critical mass in our political system, will drive their agenda based on quality bills that are likely going to come, and the oversight functions, that is their primary responsibility. And based on the fact that the National Assembly will also look forward to improving the quality of even the selection or the election process in terms of the lower level of even the primaries. I'm sure they have graduated from a very solid template that they have used for this 2023 election. I look forward for them to engage in more quality participation of the delegate system and even in interfacing with the political structures to make sure that they enhance the quality at the lower level so that good number of people who are interested in the political space can participate instead of allowing people who don't have idea, instead of monetization, they can begin to think about politics of development and reconstruction of our entire development space.
I mean, this also, interestingly, we're seeing just about almost 70% of, there's a huge turnover, about 70% of the members of the 10th National Assembly that won't be returning. I mean, members of the 9th National Assembly that won't be returning, we're saying out of 426 members elect right now, only 306 are new, about 306 are new lawmakers, while 120 are going to be from the old guard that are coming into the 10th National Assembly. For example, out of the 109 senators, 28 of them are returning. In the House of Reps, out of the 300
turnaround in the
in the House of Reps,
and that's a sad. Sad.
It's a major issue too, because there are a lot of inexperience that will come into the system.
It's very sad because Congress it's like a school where you need to develop over time, and it's the bedrock of democracy. Without Congress, you can as well have a military rule, because in the military rule, there's the executive and there's the judiciary. So the difference between democracy and military rule is the fact that we've got a legislature. So stability in Congress, in the National Assembly, House of Representatives, is important for the growth of our democracy. If you look at the U.S. Congress, for example, the 117th Congress, I think that's 2021 to 2023, you know, this 2-year term in the United States. I think only 10 members did not return. That's over 90% returning.
So experience is important.
It strengthens democracy.
So could we see the naivety of the new members playing out in the election? Because it's the first day that most of them will be seeing themselves.
It can be a very volatile election, and that's why we need to go. That was the first thing I said. We need to go into that election as a united front. And we've been talking about different zones. For the House of Reps, we didn't mention the Southeast. If the Senate presidency goes to the South-South, then the Southeast is going to say what's in it for them, for the speakership as well. And we've got quality people in the Southeast as well. But if the Southeast gets the Senate presidency, then the Southeast will not ask for speakership in the House. Then the South-South will start asking. It's a bit dynamic and it could be volatile. That's why we must go in as a united front.
Honorable Sule added to the list. Idris Wese is another man that's name is missing on that list. Sada Soli from Katsina State. But the big question is that on that day, now we have, if you bring back the number of the House of Reps members and senators, you will see some activist lawmakers elect that will be coming, and that might also play a role. You have 34 Labour Party. Labour Party is an extension of the Labour. I mean, because its party is enshrined, and you see some of these people, they will bring some level of activism in the.
There's a lot of meetings going on already across party lines. Yeah. Across party lines. We're meeting with. I met with quite a few Labour Party members yesterday. I've met with NNPP members, and there's going to be a lot of behind-the-scenes discussion. It's not everything that will happen. The election that will happen proper on the day, there's going to be a pre-election. There's going to be a lot of discussions behind this, a lot of agreements.
And will there be sleeping in the car park?
No, nobody will sleep. We're not going to have a problem. It's going to go smooth and easy.
All right, we've had that many times over. But let's try to bring home the conversation now. And I'd like to ask, because this comes down to one thing. that President Buhari also might be involved partly in this. He may have bowed out. There are those who are saying that he should be the chairman of the board of trustees of your party. There are those who have said that if Buhari goes, there goes your party. then your party is going to bite the dust. I mean, it's going to go into crisis. But now, we'll see the interplay of forces here. Yeah. We have, it's going to be a new president, a new vice president. And so it's not like you have a president that is being re-elected. Yeah. If you have something to tell the leadership of the party, you have a national chairman of the APC that lost the election in his home state. There's a whole lot of emotion that will play out in that time. If you have something to tell the APC on how to go about this, because the history of a failure of the political party in aligning before the election day, what would you be saying tonight?
No, I think based on my experience in citizens' engagement, there is nothing that consultation cannot resolve. But the idea of backstabbing is the only thing that is going to cause the party a huge challenge. So if there is consultation, conceding and concessions, it will help a lot.
You think the president-elect and the vice president-elect should be authoritative? Do you think that it should be
the national chairman and national secretary, the national working committee?
National working committee must be carried along with the members of the caucus of the National Assembly.
Let me ask, Honorable, if you are to tell your party something tonight about how this should go, what would you be telling them?
The first thing I would say is number 3 should not be a Muslim. It shouldn't be Muslim.
What about number 4?
So number 3 should come to down south. So I'm not going to say whether south, east, or south. Number 4, we leave it to the leaders.
That's where you belong.
And that means automatically the North Central will take the deputy Senate president, if that be the case, because we have become the abandoned zone for too long. And I think this is our time to make
And I really think Northwest you have something good, something solid.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen, for bringing to bear your experience and your thoughts and your perspective in this conversation, which I know that it will generate a lot more conversation. Thanks so much. Honorable Akin Alabi, it's good to see you again. And a member of the APC from Oyo State in the House of Representatives, and he's going to be returning the 10th National Assembly. And Professor Kuta Yahya Muhammad, expert in strategic communication and development, a professor in the University of Ibadan. Thanks so much indeed for your time today.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for being part of it. I'm Sean Kimbale. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. God bless Nigeria.
Welcome to Elections 101 in 5, a show brought to you by AGA Africa and supported by the UNDP. My name is Samson Itodo. What are the stages of appeal against a judgment delivered by an election petition tribunal or a court? We hit the streets to ask Nigerians what they know about these stages and listen to what they said.
Normally in Nigeria we have like 3 steps in the court case. The tribunal, the appeal, then the Supreme Court.
Okay, I think the court will have no other option than to quash the case. That is what I think, that's my opinion.
Litigants, or anyone who is a party to an election petition, who is dissatisfied with the ruling or the judgment delivered by a tribunal, an election tribunal to be specific, or courts of first instance, can appeal such judgment as a matter of constitutional right. In other words, the right of appeal exists only when it is prescribed in the Constitution. So if you're not satisfied with the outcome, with the judgment issued by a court, you have a right to appeal that judgment. Once a tribunal or court delivers a judgment on an election petition, a petitioner, that's the person who institutes, the person who files the case challenging an election, or the respondent, and that's the person who the petition is made against, can appeal against such decision in a higher court to obtain justice. That is the beauty of democracy. it is important to note that the exercise of the right of appeal must be in strict compliance with provisions of the law as well as the rules of election appeals. So this is important because to obtain justice in an election petition, the court has, as well as the Constitution, has provided you with the right of appeal. So now let's look at the stages of appeal on judgments in an election petition. So appeals arising from the decision of a court of appeal in respect of a presidential election shall be heard by the Supreme Court. In other words, if a candidate or a party is dissatisfied with the ruling of a court of appeal, which is the tribunal for presidential election, they have a right to appeal to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is the highest court of the land, and so it is called the court of last resort for matters relating to presidential elections. It takes approximately 8 months to determine a presidential election petition. Now, for governorship election petition, when the court at the tribunal, at the governorship election tribunal, issues a judgment and the parties are dissatisfied, they can appeal to the court of appeal, and then from the court of appeal, if they are dissatisfied also with the decision of the court of appeal, they can appeal to the Supreme Court. So for governorship elections, the final court is the Supreme Court, but there are 2 stages. The first stage is from the tribunal, it goes to the court of appeal, and from the court of appeal to the Supreme Court. For governorship election petitions, it takes 10 months, an approximate 10 months to resolve a governorship election petition. And lastly, appeals on judgments issued by a National Assembly and State Assembly election tribunal, those appeals shall be filed at the Court of Appeal. So the Court of Appeal is the final court for all appeals related to petitions on National Assembly and State Assembly elections. And for these set of cases, it takes approximately 8 months to resolve a dispute on a National Assembly and State Assembly elections. And that's Elections 101 in 5. Now you know the different stages of appeals in cases related to election petitions. For presidential, the final court is the Supreme Court. For governorship, the final court is the Supreme Court. And for State Assembly and National Assembly elections petitions, the final court is the Court of Appeal. Bye for now.